Sticky Trifle Podcast. Welcome to the Sticky Trifle Podcast.
And welcome once again. And my guest that's going to be on the podcast is somebody very different. And it's neither this badger, by the way. And I didn't kill it, okay? It was obviously somebody else. But anyway, my guest, they're really interesting. And you're going to find out why that is. And they're first person like us, so and they are so brave to be doing this, by the way, as you'll find out.
Sticky Trifle Podcast.
And welcome, it's Sticky Trifle Podcast number 43. We're on a roll. It's still summertime, it's a bit bleaker today. And I met you before properly.
Yeah,
Or we kind of have.
a wee bit.
Aye, we met each other briefly, but we'll get on it. So am I right in saying, is it Patrick Ramaz?
Yes.
Patrick
Might be
Ramaz.
the only in the world.
Now that means that there's only one other Ramaz I can, and your dad was on a few
Yeah.
podcasts back. So you're his
Son.
son,
Yeah.
right? This could be complicated to work out, but I'm sure. Will you have a little drink with us
Sure.
before we get started? I'll tell you what I've got in here. You've maybe heard it, Fanta grape,
Sure.
if you didn't mind.
There's orange in my school cafeteria.
So you like orange?
No,
You don't like orange?
I don't like orange.
Cheers. How is it?
Grape.
It is grape. Right, so it's not something you drink.
No.
I kind of like it. I like grape. I love grape. So right, now we met kind of only briefly
Yeah.
back when your dad was on a few podcasts ago,
True.
and he kind of mentioned how he's got a daughter
Yes.
and he's now got a son.
Yes.
So we're right.
Yeah.
Right. Because I hate to be politically incorrect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And nowadays, because you say something wrong, somebody goes, you can't say it, you can't do it.
Yeah.
But, right, so what are we saying you are? What are we saying you're
I am transgender.
transgender?
Yes.
Right, because it's something I've struggled with a bit, because I've always thought, right, how does this really work? So, what age did you ken you was transgender?
Well, I mean, I always knew something was up. Like,
Are we speaking about, like, really
when
young?
I was really young, you know, I was like the classic tomboy. You know, I always was into guy thing. Like, I had the option of a Barbie or dinosaur toys. Obviously, I wanted the dinosaur toys. They're so much cooler. So I always knew I wasn't exactly a girl. And then I started to become more educated on the LGBTQ plus community, and then I thought, well, I'm definitely not a girl. I was maybe 12. And then I thought, well, maybe I'm like non-binary, you know, like not a girl, not a boy. But then as I grew older, I realised, no, like about 13, I am definitely a guy.
And so, how was that to express yourself? Because was you holding a lot of things in and at a time?
I think I've always been quite open about it because, like, I've known that I was, you know, I know I was different. I've always been very open about that. I immediately, as soon as I've worked it out, I told close friends, and then I told my whole school. But it was a few months later until I told my parents, because I wasn't sure how they would react.
So let's get back to the school part. You're playing with other females in class, I presume, like
Yeah.
at break times and stuff.
In primary school.
Aye.
Yes.
They're talking. They're and fun and games.
Mm-hmm.
Was you enjoying it?
I mean, okay, so I had 2 really close friends, and they were both girls, and we would always play together, and we'd play like games where like pretending we were an academy, older like teenagers, like how they are in the programs, and there would always need to be a boy, and I would always be the boy, no complaints. So I was okay with that because I always felt more like myself when I was acting as someone different. Because it always just felt right,
And so the process so how difficult was it for you actually kind of coming out?
I think it would have been harder if I wasn't friends with who I'm friends with, because there was a boy on my bus and he was trans, and I knew, well, there were a lot of queer gay people at my school, so I knew that obviously there would be homophobic people, but there would also be people who supported me. And so at first, obviously it was hard, people asking stupid questions, but I think I've never been affected by bullying. I think people have tried to bully me. A boy in my science class really tried his he tried his best to annoy me, but I never really cared. Like I never understand how people can be affected by other people's opinions on them.
And I think what happens there now is it's sometimes when some of us persons that was maybe trying to do the bullying, they're not educated because they've got parents it's doing the same thing, so they don't know any better. And sometimes that's part of the problem for it's not actually just them, but at the same time, it's not something you should be experiencing.
Yeah, it's always a lack of education breeds ignorance.
Yep.
And that makes people hostile because they don't understand. And nobody likes to not know things because people like to feel smart.
And so when we speak about like acceptance, Patrick, how has it been for getting accepted? Do you feel like a close friends and that?
It's a funny story. So when I first came out to my friend group, I was the only queer person, and then now as it stands, there are 4 trans people in my group that have came out over time, and I like to think that it was sort of because of me that they came out. Like in my year, I was the first trans person, and I was the first person to actually, like, I'm not to be a pioneer or anything, but I sort of like showed people like it'll be okay, and like with my group, they're all very like accepting people. There were people and they were quite homophobic for a bit, but now that person in particular has came out as bi, so it's always it's either self-hatred or lack of education.
So does this mean obviously you're are we saying transitioning?
Transitioning.
A girl to a man.
Yeah.
Or when I say a girl to a boy, would it be a girl to a man kind of thing?
I mean, I'm still a boy,
Right. But so, and how is that process going to happen?
Well, there's 3 different types of transitioning. There's mentally transitioning, which is when you sort of it might sound almost sexist, but men and women think differently because they're educated to think differently and brought up to think differently and think about things differently. So part of mentally transitioning is changing your mindset. I used to think like a girl almost, but now I think I think like a guy, and I internally also accepting and becoming a guy. I no longer have any connection with the female identity, but my connection is way stronger with the male identity. So
is it like something you want to forget about in us? See the past, is it wiped? Do you just wipe it out?
I don't want to forget because it's a part of my identity, but it's not who I am anymore. It's like if I used to have long hair, I no longer have long hair. I'm not going to go around saying I have long hair because I don't, And then of course there's socially transitioning, which is transitioning among my peers. So I use different pronouns, and they all use them correctly.
Is this he, she thing?
Yeah.
So you're he now?
Yeah. I'm surprised how many people don't know what pronouns are, or I see a lot of videos online of people going, I have no pronouns, but that's a key part of grammar, is how you refer to people. Like we is a pronoun, I is a pronoun. It's the language you use to refer to other people. So I think it's funny to see people go like, I've got no pronouns, I'm not a leftist. Well, no, because if people stopped referring to you, that's not how language works.
Like, so could I be referred to as Sticky He? Sticky He? No, that's going too far, is it?
I mean, if that's a whole different like.
I
I
might push for that in future. Sticky He.
Yeah.
Because I'm Sticky Trifle, you see, so I'm.
Yeah.
No.
A lot of people there's a whole different set of pronouns, which is called neopronouns, which tends to be used by people who are neurodivergent, so people who have like autism and stuff like that.
Is this Z in it?
Yeah, Z's, pronouns like this is because people don't feel connected to traditional pronouns, and they prefer to use different pronouns. And there's a lot of like drama around that over whether these are like valid pronouns. But I think I have no right to say what is or isn't valid, because people could say to me that my pronouns are valid, that I'm not valid. And so I think as soon as you start policing people's identities, then the line gets blurred. Like, where does it stop? Where does it become okay to be something? It's
So as you, how comfortable are you right now within your inner self?
I'm quite comfortable, I think, but in terms of like my inner self, my mindset, I'm more my authentic self than I've ever been. But in terms of like physically, of course, there's physically transitioning.
And is this the last part you what
Yeah.
I've mentioned about physical transition?
Yeah. So when I turn 17, I will be eligible for a diagnosis of gender dysphoria. But I could also go private, which is where I get supplied with testosterone and I start, I can either use gel or inject it, and I will start, my voice will drop, I'll go through a second wave of puberty, I'll get an Adam's apple, my body muscle mass will get more, I'll grow a beard, I'll start to bald earlier.
And you kind of, you're looking forward to this happening, this thing?
Yeah, this is what I want.
Yep. And so like fun is, so you're saying 17,
Yeah.
but it's going to take time, it's not just going to magically occur, is it? Things and
you take testosterone for like 5-6 years before you can start leveling it out, because it's a drastic change. So there's lots of videos online of people going, this is my voice one day on T, this is my voice like 1 year on T. So during the first year is where everything starts to happen, where your voice drops, you get acne, you get facial hair, and then it starts to level out. But it's just supplying the hormones to your body that your body doesn't make. It's like insulin,
Yeah. Now, part of this, obviously, if you're going to be turning into a male, is the fact. How do you feel about children's future? Is that something kind of happened for you?
In my whole life, I've never wanted biological children. As soon as I knew what adoption was, I wanted to adopt, because I think there are already children in the world. Why would I bring more? Why would I want to look and see what me and my partner together as one individual looks like? I understand why people do it. It's interesting, and like you might feel closer connected. But I have always wanted to adopt children. I always wanted to adopt older children. So
it could be a plan doing like.
Yeah, I want to adopt.
Yep. And you mentioned partner there.
Yeah.
Would that be? See, here's where it gets interesting for me, because I think, well, okay, so they're telling me they're transgender.
Yeah.
But if does that mean a partner, or does it no matter if it's
well,
what a partner would be, male or female?
Gender and sexuality are entirely divorced. They're totally different from each other. Obviously, if you transition from male to female, your sexuality is going to change in reflection of that. But they're divorced from each other. So back when I identified as, I've gone through quite, I used to think I was bi, and now I'm like fully gay as in into men.
Yep. Okay.
So, I say partner because, you never know what'll happen.
Yeah. It's something, because like, there's so much different terms nowadays, is there?
Yeah.
And especially when we speak about like sexuality, there's a lot of different terms, and we're getting into pronouns now and things like that, and so it is confusing for like people. It's just like
casually looking into it. Yeah.
Yep. Aye. And even for me, sometimes I think, well, what's happening here,
it can
and how
seem
does that work?
overwhelming, yeah.
So, your mum and dad, how was it for them, do you think, when you first came out? What age was you when you came out, did you say?
I think I came out to them in about May 2018.
So it was
about
like
4 months
14,
after
13, 14?
Yeah, 4 months after I came out to my school, I think it was very difficult for them to start with because, you know, when you come out as transgender, I feel like for parents it would be the feeling of like, did I do something wrong? Is this the reflection of my parenting? And you know, you also feel like you lose the child that you had. Like my dad wanted a daughter, he really wanted a daughter, and he got one. So for me to say that I no longer wanted to be his daughter, I think would be very difficult for him. But we had a point of deep tension in my family because we had lots of arguments about it, and we had one particular argument that ended really badly, and then after that then they started using my pronouns and my name, and now we've gotten to a really good point where they use my name and my pronouns, and it's gotten to a really good point there.
And I think it's really brave of you to, especially at our age, to come out and just go for it and go, right, I'm not hiding this no more, because you hear stories of people older and then they kind of come out with us kind of making this statement that they are this, and for you to do it at such a young age, it's amazing that you've got a lot of strength to do that.
Yeah, I think I just knew that, well, there's no point hiding it, I'll have to say eventually, you know, and I don't want that to be when I have a beard and 3 kids, you know. I want it to be now, so I can so I don't have to go through this like discovery by myself.
And so does this mean, like, do you start getting interested in male things now? And I'm speaking about, let's just say, like, so usually if you're a male, you would maybe like football, things like that.
I don't know, I watched the game yesterday.
Right.
I thought it was quite interesting, but I don't know, I'm not the most sporty of people. I lean more into the video game side of male interest and stuff, but for me, you know, there's like stereotypically male interests would be like football, video games, and female interests would be like, oh, fashion and stuff. But I sort of fell in the middle. I'm really into writing and reading and drawing, so I feel like that's quite a neutral interest. So
you wasn't into these things before, by the way?
I was always into writing and reading and
but
drawing.
it's took a stronger kind of interest in you.
Yeah, I've started doing like poetry with the school and stuff, and I've been drawing my whole life. So I think with these like neutral interests, I never felt a need to change them. But I have, you know, I got more into video games, and even though some pro gamers were like, oh, that's not a real video game, well, I mean, it is, because it is. And
Finn, we're speaking about video games, because I'm a PlayStation fan, okay? I've been since the PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, still got. Now, well, I'm a bit older, right?
And
like my dad years ago, you still playing at games? And I'd go, aye, but casually, going on, like Red Dead Redemption 2, I love it, things like that. But if you're a gamer, like, how serious have you to be called a gamer? Because there's PCs, and a kind of PC, they're going, oh, you can't beat the PCs for graphics and stuff, but like, does that mean I'm not a serious gamer if I've got a PlayStation 4?
I think people will try and gatekeep gaming forever because I think it's this new thing, and people like to think they can control it. And people like to be like, oh, mobile games aren't real games. Well, what are they then? They are games, they're video games. And they like to be like, oh, unless you play on PC, I play on PC, then you're not a real gamer. But what is like an Xbox then? You're not going to watch movies on it, you know.
So to you, it doesn't matter if somebody's got in, if they're gaming, they're a gamer? If
they're interested in games that you play online, they are a gamer, a video gamer, you know. It doesn't matter how involved they are. If they enjoy video games, they're a gamer, you know. I don't like to gatekeep things like that.
So, it's PC you go with?
Yeah.
Aye, okay. So that makes you a serious gamer. You're a real gamer.
I got my first PC 2014. I was, I think, 9 years old or 10, and I sort of fell in love with it. It was my dad's old PC, and I kept it until like 3 years ago, and then I got a new one, and I recently bought myself a new one.
And what kind of games are you playing?
Minecraft mainly. I really like Minecraft.
Building and on with others, is
no,
that right?
I like PvP, player versus player, you know.
Alright, okay.
I'm big into like going on servers, and I like survival, and you know, like I'm not big into creative or building or anything. I'm a creative person, but it just doesn't translate to like architecture and stuff. I prefer like learning about the game and how to become the best.
And so the other thing that comes with that, and I presume, like your dad's into Buddhism,
Yeah.
and stuff. How do you feel about that?
Well, I was born as a Buddhist, and I identified as a Buddhist for a long time, and I really connected with it. I became vegetarian at 13, because of my religion and stuff. But
And you're still vegetarian?
I'm still vegetarian.
Right, okay.
So it's been 3 years that I haven't eaten meat, and recently I used to be pescatarian, but I watched a documentary that scared me, so I got full vegetarian. And then I sort of was not as connected to Buddhism, and I was online and I wasn't really looking for anything. I just came up of Satanism.
Satanism? I'm a bit scared here.
Yeah, so
if it is this...
when I say Satanism, you think sacrificing goats, worshipping the devil, but that's not what it is actually. Satanists are more like humanists, but they embrace the dark atmosphere. It's helicopter going past?
Helicopter.
Yeah.
It's maybe a Satanist.
Yeah. So the tenets of Satanism are to have reasonable compassion towards all animals, all entities. It's to never ever allow scientific facts to be biased about them. Like confirmation bias. To always allow your ideas to form with science.
Yeah.
And it's about having just compassion towards everything, and to believe that no authority, no law should be held higher than people's rights and people's beliefs. So
it sounded kind of bad for me when I heard you saying Satanism, but it's nothing like fit.
No.
It sounds like.
So there's two main branches of Satanism, which is the Church of Satan and the Satanic Temple. I'm a member of the Satanic Temple, which is the one that has these more light-hearted beliefs, but the Church of Satan, they are also good people, I believe, but they're more forceful about it. One of their tenets is to to be respectful at all costs, and if someone disrespects you, then you can do what you want to them. But I don't really believe in that. I believe more in the Satanic Temple, and we don't believe in Satan or God or an afterlife because it's almost cruel. To me, the idea of if you're bad on earth, you're tortured forever. We believe in Baphomet, who is we don't believe in him so much as we support him. He believes in equality, and he's an equal being, and he's we don't believe in him, but we believe in his ideology.
Now I love how every time I border on religion with people, everybody's got his different beliefs in it. So with yours, let's just say, as an example, one day in future down the line, hopefully another 50, 60 years, you're going to die.
Yeah.
But we all do.
Yeah.
But if it happens to you, what do you think's happening when you die? Is that it? That's the end of it? Nothing else?
I think I believe in reincarnation, because...
Is it like you're not coming back as anything?
Well, I think as part of my upbringing in Buddhism, it was always, you will come back as something, and you will get to try again. This is not the end. And I think that the law of nothing is ever gone, everything is recycled. And also I went down a bit of a rabbit hole looking at cases of reincarnation where people, these young children have memories and they know things that they shouldn't know. It's really crazy stuff like that. So I do believe in reincarnation. I believe that when we die, we can come back, and maybe when we're younger, we might remember that a bit. It might manifest itself in our personalities and stuff, but we will always come back. It will never be the end. But I think, I don't necessarily believe in this, but recently I read a short story called The Egg, in which a man dies, and he's greeted with another man, and this man, he's God. Not to present my beliefs of God or anything, but this is just how the story goes. And the man says, this is it, and the man goes, yeah, and he says, okay, so what now? And God says, you go back down, you'll be a 5th century peasant girl from China, And he goes, wait, so there's time travel? And God says, well, time isn't really linear as you experience it. You will go down there as many times. And he says, wait, so I could have interacted with myself? And God goes, yeah, it happens all the time. And he goes, well, so what's the point of it all? And God goes, that's a bit cliche, don't you think? And the man goes, well, I mean, it's a valid question. And God goes, well, I mean, the point is for you to live every life that you can. And the guy goes, wait, what? Does that mean they're all me? And the guy goes, yeah. And then he goes, well, what happens once I've done that? And then he says, you'll become like me. You'll become a god, and you will have your own universe. And I don't know. I like that.
So it's like, see us stuff in it. So we're speaking about us things. Do you read up in this?
Yes, I've read that story online. I think it's really interesting, stuff like that.
And like us groups you're in, we this things. Is there a lot of yous?
In terms of the temple, the Satanic Temple.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, there's the main temple is based in Massachusetts, in Salem. You know, where the Salem witch trials took place. But there's one in basically every state. There's one in the UK as well. Yeah, so there's not a huge amount, but it's not obviously not the biggest religion. But it's not just like a couple of people. It's a thing. Like the Temple of Satan, the Satanic Temple, has a statue in Oklahoma where there are other statues of Christ and stuff, and that upsets a lot of people. But they are a big organisation in terms of, like, it's not just a few people.
Yep, okay. And so you always think in the future, is there a chance you might change and going back to
of course, there's always
some other thing?
a chance to change.
Aye.
Nothing is set in stone, even though I don't really believe in free will as such. Nothing is set in stone, whatever happens will happen. That's what part of Buddhism that I kept with me is go with the flow,
And let's speak about future, Patrick, because the past is now in the past for you, and you've moved on. You're now enjoying far you're going in life.
Yeah.
So what do you think your future holds for you in future, career-wise and things like that?
I'm in the middle, because I know I want to do something perhaps to do with English writing, because I quite like that, but I'm not really sure, because I think most people have sort of been installed with the belief of you go to university, you get a job, you stick with that job, then you die. But with my parents, my mum, my dad, they've both had lots of different jobs, so I think, well, whatever happens will happen. I'll look at different courses on uni, I'll pick one that sounds interesting, maybe I'll complete it, maybe I won't, and then I'll go do something with it,
So you're thinking uni, and then maybe if nothing goes to plan, you move on to a job or something like that.
If something else presents itself, then I'll go for that, but it's nothing is set in stone. I just do what feels right.
And like daily life for you now, like interests and stuff, so are you a lot?
I go out with my friends every Tuesday and Saturday.
And if it's just like getting together?
Yeah, we go in the park, we chat, we come back to my house, or on Saturday we just basically like go to the park in Maud for a bit, play a bit of football, go to like the proper park, it's just being outside with my friends.
So before we go, how hard has it been for you to like transition and because I presume you've had moments of sadness and not sure how exactly you can get through with either acceptance. It's all about acceptance, isn't it?
Yeah, I've struggled with my mental health for a while, quarantine obviously didn't help, and it's sort of but it's never really been to do with my identity, because I've been out for so long that it's sort of taken a back burner for me, because I'm at a stage where there's not much things I can do. I can just keep going as I'm going. So my whole, the being trans for me used to be a much bigger part of my life, but now that I've taken up more interest, I've done more things, it's not as important to me anymore. I'm more focused on like my friends, my future,
But it's good to ken that you're proud to get on with it, and if somebody else has got a problem, that's their problem.
Oh, of course. I don't look like it right now, but I dress in a certain way, I look a certain way, like my hair is going to be purple soon, and to get a reaction from people, but I don't care if it's negative. Like I had rainbow hair at one point, and I walked through Aberdeen and a lady told me Jesus loves you, and you know, and I think that's funny. I like being stared at. I think it's nice to. I like the fact that people will think about me.
And there we go, because that's judging. That's people judging that didn't even know you.
Yeah.
And I've always hated that thing for people kind of think just because they're wearing this or they look like that, that means they're this. It's not like that nowadays, is it?
There were 2 people who lived in this village, older people, not old, but like in their 30s, and Six and Diablo. And Six had huge stretched earlobes, tattoos everywhere. She had dark hair, and Diablo had eye tattoos and implants and more tattoos everywhere. And they were the loveliest people you'd ever meet. Six and Diablo, you know, you wouldn't think it, but
I'm sure they got a lot of hecklers and people like.
In my primary school, when they walked past, all the children would go, "Oh my God, look, they're goth," and I knew they were lovely people. Their dog, they had I think it was a Rottweiler called Fox, like Guy Fawkes, and that was the cutest, sweetest dog, and they were just such lovely people. And I think it was a shame that people said the way they did about them, but they had the same thing as me. They revelled in the attention.
So if I was on a like sentence you can pass on to us one person watching with us only one thought process about how a world is, what would you say? You
should always be open to the idea that you are not right. I think people need to accept that they are wrong more, and you should always accept that there are more worldviews than your own. I know I'm only like 16, so like what do I know, but there are so many different types of people. How can you be so entitled to believe that you are correct? You should always be open to the idea that you're wrong, and you should be always open to learn from other people.
Fantastic, and I love that you're coming out with it. I love the ideas you've got in.
Yeah.
And I'm really hoping that goes to plan in future.
Me too.
And I'm sure with your parents, you've got a guy like, well, Eric, I think you're that guy, and again, he's always advising you on things, and you probably didn't see eye to eye all the time.
Oh yeah.
But I love it. So last time when I visited the family, and you had 3 dogs going on, and it was just such a happy environment.
Yeah.
That's what I felt anyway. So.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on, Patrick.
No problem.
And it's been really interesting because it's like one of that taboo subjects that people do not really.
I love talking about things that you're not supposed to.
Yep. When we've talked about something here which is happening a lot more than that people actually realise.
You wouldn't think it, but anyone you meet could be different, and they could be a Satanist, they could be trans, you know.
So don't I judge a book by its cover?
Absolutely not.
Right, thank you very much.
Cool.
And I guess that's going to be it. Yep. And we'll see you next week.
Sticky Trifle Podcast.
And thank you once again to Patrick for not just telling us about the person he's becoming, but the person he needs to be.
Sticky Trifle Podcast will return next week.
And sometimes it can be hard making sense of the younger generation, but Patrick made total sense to me in everything he spoke about. Satanism, I still need to figure out out though. And I've just noticed, even ducks like to hear arguments and muck about, not just us. And this seating area is one of the most beautiful places to ever sit, ever. See you next Sunday. Bye.
Sticky Trifle Podcast.